All right, guys, I got Eugene Cisco here from Real Life and Law. Eugene, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you again. Thank you for inviting me in. I'm tickled to join you and your audience. So hopefully we can have some fun.
I agree. I think it will be fun because I noticed that you reach a whole spectrum of knowledge when it comes to law. Most men really specialize in one thing. They'll be a defense attorney or they'll be a prosecutor for 20 years, and maybe
Yeah.
they'll find some other way to get up another tier or something. But normally they just specialize in just criminal law or just accidents or something. You
Right.
seem to have a far larger spectrum, a plethora of knowledge that most people do not carry into a law firm like that. How did you manage to accomplish
And
that?
that, well, so a lot of what I talk about, I've come to the table with a couple of different skill sets. So you noticed that already. So as far as my law practice, I've always been a solo practitioner. So when you're a solo practitioner, that gives you, doesn't necessarily mean that all these lawyers do that, because you're right, most of them do not. They get out of law school, and even if they work in a firm or by themselves, they find a really small, narrow slice of the law, and that's what they do. I've never done that. I mostly because um, when I started, I had other business ventures. I went to law school late in life, so I had a load of experiences and knowledge. I'm a certified guidance counselor. I've worked in mental health. I'm a high school teacher, trained teacher. And so, and plus I'm a business guy. I've started several businesses. So when it comes to the law, I had a kind of a base knowledge, at least a practical working knowledge of a whole lot of crap. And then when I went to law school, I went to law school specifically with that in mind, to kind of do something really different, mostly to help people that have been in trouble with the law because of a mental illness. Because my background is mostly uh, substance abuse and mental illness. And when I was in court, a lot of times with clients as a counselor, I realized no one's paying attention to these people. No one's talking to them. So I went to law school specifically to do that. And then I realized there's a whole lot of crap out there. And so I just developed a lot of skills, helped people start businesses as a solo practitioner. I've dabbled in criminal law because I was a prosecutor in criminal defense. I've um, filed civil actions, lawsuits for personal injury. So I've had a good taste of everything, and I'm not afraid to learn and stick my neck out there. And that's really what it is. That's why I'm able to speak as authoritatively as I have on a lot of these subjects.
Yeah,
So
Eugene, I love it because I'm a little bit like that myself. I like the adventure and the chase of researching and learning something new. So in
oh
law,
that
man, I know there's so many nuances to laws where the reason why people want to get in their niche is they want to specialize in all those nuances so they can memorize those 100 things and not
yeah.
have to branch out and because it's almost an adventure to learn how to prosecute a whole nother
Hey,
realm of that law.
and even stuff that you do every day, like found myself when I get a subject like the First Amendment, I'm doing some stuff on the First Amendment. You know about it as a lawyer, you certainly study it and you understand it. But then, when you realize that what you're putting out there on your platform, people are going to look at it and believe it. There's a lot of people that's going to believe you and not do their own research. So I'm always cognizant of that. And then there's a whole section of people who are just trolling you to find out that you're screwing up. You only got 3 daggone minutes. So the problem that bothers me is, like, you got 3 minutes to do this. Uh, and so you're obviously going to leave something out. You're going to, and I edit my own crap. My vision is I'm legally blind, so you'll notice that on my TikToks. A lot of people notice that, like when I'm talking, I tend to look off to the side of the camera, because when I do that, I can see the camera. The moment that I focus to the camera, my phone disappears. So I don't know where I'm at in relation to the camera, so I have to look off to the side. And you wouldn't believe, but people notice everything. So the point is, people notice everything. So when I put something out there, I'm still nervous about what I'm putting out there and making sure it's at least as correct as I can make it. And then if I have to follow up, I do that. And so,
Well,
it's
the follow up is great because that gives you more engagement. So I'm not
yeah.
gonna lie to you. There's guys out there that play the game where they'll spell a word wrong or they'll leave a little bit
Oh,
of an information out just to get that engagement to freak everybody out. Because some
no
people
kidding.
will lose their minds over such
Huh.
small little details. And once you get that engagement going, it actually helps with the algorithm with TikTok and stuff.
Well,
So
that's
so
what,
people
yeah.
people have been playing that game for a little while.
Oh, I never thought of that. I know they talk about engagement, but it never dawned on me to purposefully.
Well, it makes
I,
a huge
I screw
difference.
up
Yeah.
on I screw up enough on my own. I don't need to do it on purpose. I do it by accident.
And never take a troll personally. He's doing you a favor.
Oh yeah.
One,
Hey,
either you're learning something new that you need to correct, or two, you're getting more engagement. So I
hey,
almost never take it personally. It's never
listen. I,
worth.
I I was raised. I didn't use the bathroom in an inside toilet until I was about 13. There's not a heck of a lot someone can say to me that hasn't already been said. So I don't I don't
Eugene, I
care.
think I hit the gold mine. You've almost done everything I could think of, and
Uh,
you come from humble beginnings, which is awesome too. I think that's a valuable skill set that wouldn't even be considered a skill set. I'm not sure how to word it
well,
correctly, but having to come from nothing has its own set of almost
oh,
core values. I see. I'm not
I
wording it correctly, but
well, but no, you're spot on. It's a lot of people don't understand. When I was growing up, uh, there was a lot of people like me. I'm 62, so I really was growing up in the late part of the 60s. As far as growing up, coming into what when I could recognize what the world was about. My limited world back where we're from in Kentucky, they call these little places hollers. I'm not sure if you've heard of those, but a holler is, we're in the mountains. So you have the mountains, and a holler is that little nook between the mountains. And so you can go two places up a holler. You can go to the head of it, which is where you end, and then you come back out of the mouth of it. So I was raised up in the head of a holler, and so very isolated. There, even when I go back home, my sister's the only one that lives there now. Uh, there isn't a town larger than 5,000 people within 3 hours. So, and it was even worse back when I was raised because the highways, we didn't have TV. We, so everyone in the community so I was normal because everyone around me was poor. Um, and, so I didn't understand that I was poor until I was about 16. Then I started going into high school and seeing that there was a lot of people different than me, and the difference was money and economics. But I don't, and was there, I can remember at points being embarrassed at the level of poverty. I wouldn't have people at the house or anything. I'm not trying to sing no sad song, but just kind of give you a perspective. When you go through that, and then my father worked his rear end off. My father drove a school bus and was a musician, very talented man. He was in the Grand Ole Opry. He actually was an accomplished country musician, but he drinking, women got in the way of his success back in the 50s. He met my mother, so he had kids, and then life got in the way, and he kind of quit that. Although he continued to write, very talented man. My mother worked in the school cafeterias. There were times when we went. You go a month without eating, and when I mean without eating, we had food stamps, but back in the 70s, they didn't give you much, $150 or $130 for six people in the family. We literally, for a winter, me and my little brother went to an abandoned uh, farm, a field, and dug potatoes. No fooling. We dug potatoes to eat. My mother, a couple of books I've written, I talk about how my mother was the master of potato making. I mean, she could make anything out of potato. We did that for about 6 or 8 weeks until my father could get paid because he drove school bus, and school buses didn't get paid until they worked 20 days. We had a particularly bad winter. Went for almost 3 months without a paycheck. So we were literally going to this old garden, me and my brother, and digging potatoes. And that's what we had, potatoes and Kool-Aid and just scrapping. So when you go through that and you see everyone else around you busting their hump, that's what you learn. You learn that even if you work, things ain't going to turn out. But if you don't work, the alternative is just to lay down and give up. And I'm not my father's not a giver up guy. He wasn't, and I'm not. I don't quit. I don't quit at nothing. That's actually a problem I have. I don't quit.
Yeah, I learned with quitting, you got to have an equilibrium. So if I'm going to endeavor in something new, it's about 2 years. If it doesn't seem like it's going to pan out, now my endeavor becomes a hobby or it goes on the shelf and I move on. Because I wanted to play basketball at 16. Obviously, I wasn't going to be a professional basketball player. So if I would have been doing that for the last 30 years, I would have squandered my life.
Yeah. So you're a baller? You play
basketball? Yeah, but I'm not good. I'm not saying I'm good. I'm just saying as a teenager, it was something that I thought was a great idea because Michael Jordan was amazing and all that stuff. But I had to realize that you have to have like a longevity to your plans. There's got to be sustainability to your overall aspects of how you play out a passion.
And that's true. Like when I decided to go to law school, with my visual, I'm legally blind, and so I could draw disability today for my vision. In fact, I thought about doing that because to spend more time on this, I wouldn't be cheating or anything. I'm literally my vision is 2,500, and it's uncorrectable. So at 20 feet, what you can see at 500 feet, I have to be up at 20 feet to see. And it's mostly my central vision, so it's my reading vision that's affected. So about a year ago, I cut down my law practice a whole lot just because I love the courtroom, but I couldn't take 6 cases into court on one day the way I used to because I lost the ability to really read a file. So when I take a case to court, I enlarge the print, I read it, I memorize it, I tab it out. I usually bring someone with me, and then that just got unworkable. Wouldn't do it. I just don't do it anymore.
That's a shame. That's a shame, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's okay, but I do still take cases. So I take cases, but I'm very selective, and because I know when I take a case, I want to be able to handle it. I've had some really big personal injury cases, but when I take one, and I've got a great assistant. I got 2 of them, and they're very good. So that's one of those things. So I pared down my law practice because I love this social media. I started it about 10 months ago, and so like you said, I thought, okay, I'm going to invest the time. I'm grinding it out, and then over the past 4 I hooked up with this girl, this social media manager, and I looked at several of them. She was wonderful and still is. She's helping me with a lot of my stuff that I can't do. Like we're getting ready to drop a couple books, and because I write a lot, I write a ton. So I'm doing some books on law and bankruptcy and divorce. I think there's 4. DUI. I've got a DUI book coming out. So she's helped me a whole lot. So I've connected with that, and it has really given me. I just love to tinker with new things, man. And this is like the coolest thing. It's just the coolest.
I feel like it's almost like the Wild Wild West because everybody's vying for old TV attention.
I love it. Yeah. And that's where you get, like, if you're a grinder and you do I honestly believe in this country, and I'm not really a flag waver, but in this country, if you work hard and do what you need to do, your diligence, as they say in the law, and do what you need to do to educate yourself, you can do daggone near anything you want to do, with a little time. So
isn't that amazing? Isn't it amazing that we've created such a unique environment?
It's the neatest thing, like this platform, and I love it. It's the Wild Wild West. So this clinic right now, I manage a substance abuse and addiction clinic, which is really my passion, probably my top passion other than the law. I tell people I practice enough law to make myself mad, but I love substance abuse and addiction. So I I started this thing, and I this just kind of by accident, but the clinic is really what my passion is. And so I've been at this for a long time, grinding it out, grinding it out. And so with my daughter, I've found a way to, kind of make a living at that, which allows me to do this.
That's amazing. That's great, man. Good for you. Congratulations. That's an awesome niche to get into. But if I understand correctly, Kentucky has a horrible what is it, crystal meth or heroin?
What was it
The
what
drugs wise. I
oh
hear Kentucky was infested with I think it was heroin or was it crystal meth? I don't know.
well it's what we call hillbilly heroin.
Okay.
It's the Oxycontin, uh,
Ah,
the pain pills.
yeah.
It I I was on the ground floor of that as a provider because early in my law career, I was able to match my counseling with the law. And so I developed a program to where I, for putting it in plain language, I would take criminal defendants and clean them up. I put them through my program. I'd talk to them, I'd mentor them with, and clean them up before they went to trial while they were on probation. And so about 30 years ago, I was doing this before I was a lawyer. I've only been a lawyer 22 years. Then when I became a lawyer, I thought, man, there's a whole population here. So I was on the ground floor of this opioid problem here. Had a couple. One of my very first clients was shot. She was pregnant, was shot in the belly. There's no doubt about that it was a hit from uh, someone that she was, because she was working with a wire with law enforcement. Um, she had a child and she was staying in an apartment, and I was working with her. Wonderful, beautifully talented hairstylist, but she got sideways with a bunch of people. The rumor is from up in Detroit, Detroit, Michigan. We no one knows right now still. Pardon me, but she one of my very first clients, and they called her the Oxycontin Queen. She was all over the paper. At that point, I realized, I thought, oh my God, this thing is bad. And then it's just gotten progressively worse. And now with the meth, we see clients here in my clinic. Um, we have about 100 patients, and it's a shame. It's a shame. I hate it. But I've been on the ground floor of this for a long time. And the government subsidized people on, you have a lot of poverty here. The poverty will rival anywhere else in the country, anywhere. Statistically, the data that I look at when I write grants, you know, this area, there are about 15 counties what we would consider Appalachia, Central Appalachia. There are about 15 counties here. The last data sets I looked at, about 6 of the counties are in the top 10 in the most poverty in the country, anywhere. You got a lot of the problems like unwed mothers, single parent families. It's depressing. One of the towns I go and practice, I practice in West Virginia and Kentucky, so I go to West Virginia, and I have seen that town disintegrate over the past 15, 20 years. And our town here is the same. There's no jobs. If you're not on some kind of government assistance, so the people that are hurt get on government assistance, they get their pain pills, and that's that cycle, man. It truly, Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty, I don't know how old you are, I can't tell, but if you're a student of history in the War on Poverty back in the 60s, Lyndon Johnson started his War on Poverty in the town that I grew up in. It was called Inez, Kentucky. Hasn't gotten any worse. I mean, they spent trillions of dollars, and we're still one of the grant programs I work with. I was a product of that grant, so I was in it, 30 years later, I write my own grant. I get funded. I write two of those. We had students that were third generation students of that particular program, and you had to meet a poverty guideline to get in it. So it's astounding. It's just astounding. So I try to do what I can do, have some fun. I found niches where I can make a living. My motto, I've had 2 kidney transplants. So the very first one that I had, I recognized my life was going nowhere. Back in '91, going nowhere. Absolutely. Floundering around, smoking a lot of weed, just jacking around. You had 3 kids at the time. And I wasn't going anywhere. So I had this epiphany in the hospital. I thought, man, I'm not going anywhere. I got to find something to do. I felt empty. So that's when I decided, well, I'll go to law school. But then the question was, how's this blind guy? And I had people actually tell me this. You can't go because you can't see. How are you going to do it? Because you can't read, which is incorrectly stated. I can see. I can't see to read. So I just grinded it out. And so all of these things that I have learned, I try to put in a format that, hopefully people can understand it. And I know people kept telling me you got to have a niche, niche down, as they say. It's hard for me to do that because I feel like not that I know everything, but I feel like I've got a lot of crap to offer. So
I like to chase squirrels too. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah,
As I'm going down and I'm trying to accomplish one goal, I'm like, wow, this would be another great goal.
Ain't it cool?
And it's like, and I gotta write it down because I've learned if I write it down, I can save it and I don't have to lose it. I don't have to squander it, and I don't have to chase it right away. And if I have a little self-control, I can finish one task and then I can play squirrel the next day.
And isn't that the key? It took me until I was in my 30s before I realized finish what's in front of me first. Do it completely to the best of my ability. Then later on, with some more education and some insight, you can always go back to it. It's like the coolest thing. And once you really learn that discipline, like I didn't learn that till after my first kidney transplant. Taught me a whole lot. And then that's where I decided things crystallized. Pardon me. Things crystallized. And I realized that, okay, there's a different way to do this. And it just came together, all of the things that I had been taught by my father, my mother, in college, all of that stuff. That's when I decided I was going to go to law school. So I developed like this motto, and I want to do good work. I want to have fun. And I want to make money. Money is always third for me. It never used to be third. But I found out if I'm able to do good work and I'm able to have fun, that money will come. It will always come. Because when people like to be around people having fun. And if you can have fun at your job, people are going to hire you. Pardon me. When I go to court, I always have fun. Now I'm tough, and I could be really tough. And there's a lot of theater involved in that. And so people like that. If they see you having fun, doing good work, they're going to hire you. I've never failed for that formula to work for me since I realized it back in 1991, when I had my first transplant. So, that's the big lesson, that big takeaway from that I've learned. And I always take that motto when someone comes in my office and they ask me to do a job, or if I'm presented with a proposal, the question I ask myself is, first off, can I do it? Is it something I can actually manage? Then immediately the second question is, can I have fun? I never worry about the money. I never. So if I can have fun and if I can do it, I'm most likely going to do it unless I see that it's going to eat me up in money, because nobody wants to lose money. I want, because if I can't eat, no one else in my office or anywhere else that I'm associated with can't eat. So we want to eat. So that's kind of my 3-pronged approach to all of the crap that I do. It's like I want to try to have fun mostly. I want to do good work. So
Yeah, I love it. And Eugene, I think that's one of the struggles we're having with our society right now, whether it be a drug epidemic or whatever, is people have to have a purpose. And
yeah,
I think we're robbing the generation coming up right now. You know, if you go to high school and you sit through class and they tell you be a good employee and the jobs just aren't there, and if you can get a job, they won't facilitate a house or a family.
yeah,
It almost eats away at the young man's soul, and he's like, what's the purpose? Why should I go do a 9 to 5 if I'll never be able to buy a house? She's never going to marry me because I could never afford the house. So then he gets discouraged and he gets nihilistic, which is not the right way to go.
no,
But it becomes so easy when the public school is like, be a good employee, be a good employee, being good. How many of those young men coming up from nothing could be such a great entrepreneur if they were taught, let's go look at what your passion is? Because people don't realize you don't pick your passion. Your passion picks you and you
that's it.
chase it. And
That's it.
and if you can chase it properly and have become somebody with drive and determination and a goal, you can actually find happiness in and of itself.
Yeah,
That actual purpose is the almost definition of happiness. And I feel
I
like the young generation's getting robbed of that.
they are, and it's one of the crazy. I'm gonna grab a drink if you don't care.
No, that's fine, man.
Um,
I got my
I
coffee.
the what I've noticed in this TikTok on comments, I get a ton of comments, like 200 or 300 a day. Um, you hit on when I talk about jobs. I have a whole series on employment because I've worked with HR departments, I've worked with employers, I've hired hundreds of
Yeah,
people
I got HR. I got it written down here. That was going to be one of my questions to you.
for my companies. And the thing that strikes me when I talk about those values, the amount of people who are beaten down, young men, y'all are young men, who, when I talk about, you just, at some point, you got to find it in yourself when, particularly when crap doesn't go your way. You've got to grind it out until, and believe with all your heart that what you're doing is the way to go until you find a better way. But people won't do that, they're angry. Why do I need to work when I'm not going to get anything?
Well, because if you ain't aiming at a target, you can't hit a target.
Right, and
Even if you're doing it badly, badly's better than not doing it at all.
hey, I say it all the time, man. I tell young kids, just do something. I've watched a little bit of Jordan Peterson. I just stumbled up on him. I'm like, God, he's saying a lot of the things only with a better accent. He's saying a lot of the things that I said forever.
Those
Just
damn Canadians.
yeah, get up in the morning, make your daggone bed, and start off right and do something every day. And I tell people, if you do that and have a mentor on anything you want to do, a goal, and plug away. Don't
It
be afraid to
accumulates.
ask
It
questions.
accumulates.
Yeah, it does.
Just like the negative. Just like the negative accumulates.
Yeah. And it's just as easy. I've never been a negative Nancy, man. Not ever. I've had, my vision, 2 kidney transplants, the poverty. And I tell people, and it's not that I don't break that out and beat people over the head with it, but when they're telling me their stories, I'm like, and I don't come at them with my story, but I try to get them to understand that there's a way out, and sometimes you just got to keep your head down and believe in what you're doing, but be open to, if you're in a space to where you don't like it, continue to work, but look for something else that turns you on, that gets you going, and because that is the key, finding your passion. People get passion and motivation mixed up. Sometimes motivation ain't there. You got to make yourself do it. But if you like what you're doing, it's like I love what I do. I don't, but I got 2 or 3 things I can do at any different time of the day. And so I love every one of them. And I've never been like this thing with the social media, man. I love it. I'll spend 3 or 4 hours on it, and it's cool. I want to learn more. I don't know anything about it, but I like to align myself with people who know what they're doing. And you can't be afraid to do that. You can't be afraid to ask questions, to let people know that you don't know. No, I had a law professor, she said to me, the most valuable thing you can ever have in your life is to know what you don't know. So if you know what you don't know, then you're not going to get in trouble and you'll be quicker to ask for help. And, I'm like, I tell everybody that. And she told me that when I was 30, first semester in law school, right after she said to me, Mr. Cisco, how long are you going to flounder around up here? I said, I hope a little longer. To know what you don't know,
Yeah. And sometimes you don't even know there's a door in front of you to open. So you got to be as diligent as possible with the little mundane things so that you may be lucky enough to get a glimmer or just to see a little light under that door, because most people miss many doors.
Because, and believe it or not, it's those little things that you do that people watch you. I became acutely aware that people are watching. And if they see you having fun, or if they see you really bearing down and doing the mundane, the distasteful stuff at your workspace, someone's going to notice you. Someone will notice you. But you've got to be on the lookout for those other opportunities and not be afraid to jump in. Every job I've never stated a job past the point at which I realized I've changed total careers 3 times, but I've changed jobs about 7 times. And with each one of those, I had felt that I was not being useful. At the same time, though, I always had another place. I never jumped a job without having another place to go. So, and I've jumped to other places that I didn't like, but I couldn't stand to be in a spot where I couldn't feel productive and I wasn't having, and that I wasn't having fun. And where I wasn't having fun. I couldn't tolerate that. That kind of mentality was my father's generation. If you're in a spot that you hate, just grind it out.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, but there was a lot of differences in the way society carried themselves. A job would last your life. It would take care of you. It had
you could retire.
Yeah, it was because my grandfather did the same thing at Stanley Tools. He got a humongous pension and a retirement. There was all kinds of stuff
and that was the goal back then. Now the data show, when I talk to prospective employers, I do workshops and stuff. The data show that people are going to change jobs about 7 times in their work life. 7 times.
I bet you it's even worse than that.
And it might be even worse. That's an old data point. That's probably maybe a 5-year-old, 6-year-old data point. But even still, you work in 40 years. You work life roughly 40 years, good productive work.
A minimum of 7 every 7 years.
Yeah, which is, that's just barely enough to get your daggone name on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it takes a special person. We're not raised with the. You're talking about the young people, and especially young men. They're not raised with. There's not a lot of fathers in the house. Even here, our mountains are filled with grannies and mothers raising the boys.
Yeah, but women can't make men.
No, you can't. A man, in my opinion, a man cannot tell a little girl how to be a woman. A woman certainly cannot tell a little boy how to be a man.
I don't know. I may disagree with you a little bit on that one. They did studies, and they did a thing where single moms raise 90% of the people in jail. They said if you're a male and female, a mother and a father are together, it goes down to like 5 or 6%. But if you take the mom out and the dad raises the kids, it stays exactly the same as if there was a mom and dad in the home together.
I think maybe actually.
So there's variables there that people don't recognize.
Well, that's true.
Because men look long term, women look at the immediate. Because women need to feed their family, women need to care for the immediate. So they don't have as well of a designed long term need for looking forward like a man does.
That's true, and
So
that I
there's
get,
perspectives that
but I
change the dynamic of so many things.
but that's true. But I think some of the points that you talked about earlier really get to the point that men need to see other men grinding it out
Yes.
and sticking through the tough. We're not most. I work. One of the programs I had, I tried to hire college kids and these young boys, and the first thing, of course, I later on, last 3 or 4 years, when I would recruit and try to recruit a young college kid to be a role model or a mentor, or we call them tutor counselors, for these young high school boys, it became increasingly difficult for me to find young men who didn't care to get their hands dirty, didn't didn't bother them to get out and walk a mile, and to be strong and tough, because I think there's a place for that. I mean, I'm not a chauvinist, but I think there's a place for that. I think
Well, not only is there a place for that, but we're in dire straits. I don't think people realize the telephone poles behind me and the street behind me over here,
yeah,
that's 100 years old.
yeah,
That infrastructure was built by men that are long dead, that saw a future beyond their lifetime that was worth the value. The guys that built the Hoover Dam, not a one of them's alive today. And
yeah,
all of them are still pumping out electricity for that city out there in the middle of the desert. And you need strong men with resilience that can see a purpose beyond themselves, let alone a purpose for themselves.
and that's why I say when we're raising all these boys, they do a wonderful job bringing these young boys to where they are, but they really need to see men doing men things. And I know it's, well, I think I saw it somewhere. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Oh yes, and that is a fact.
And we're just not making them anymore. So when I would call or try to recruit these young boys, I would call other colleges, and one of the things out of my mouth was, I want a young man. I want a real young man. Not that doesn't. It's not.
Not a little boy playing video games.
Yeah, and increasingly, I had a lady chide me from my school just a couple years ago. She said, "Well, we can't say that now." I said, "Well, I don't know how else to tell you, but that's what I need. I need a young boy. I need a young college kid that's not afraid to stand up tall and
put his shoulders back and tell the truth."
Yeah, yeah.
Just put your shoulders back and tell the truth.
It's the best, right? That's the best thing, and
you have no better strategy. It's not like we're not all in. This is an all-in sum game here. And,
yeah.
What I think is happening, Eugene, and I think this is super important, is we see the world through the lens by which we experience it, and young men are saying, okay, if I go work at McDonald's, I'm going to make $200 or $300, and it's basically enough to buy a big beer like a 40 and play video games, or smoke a little weed and play video games.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get a girlfriend out of this, because
yeah.
they're all going to wait for the prettier boy, or they're going to wait for the richer guy, or they're going whatever it is. And he's like, okay. So I think they said society, I think 50% of the young men under 25 are involuntarily sexless.
Now,
give me a motivation at any level in society where a man gets no sex at all. And I'm not being rude, because I can't go without. I don't know how these young men do, but I can't go without. Yeah, you would think that would get a fire under you, but it's not getting a fire under you. The opposite's happening. They're reverting back to themselves. They're staying at the house. They're playing on social media, and they're arguing with older men that are actually making the content. They're arguing over the nuances of how well your content's created. Playing video games, smoking weed, and hanging out with grandma until grandma dies. With no game plan. They have no long-term game plan, and a handful of them go to college, but that's normally like a Christian man, and then they eat away at your Christian values when you go there. And again, 50% of them are completely sexless. So you got a bunch of guys at college. They're not getting any action, so they're sitting there smoking weed and playing video games with their friends online, and they're not even socializing at college, which means they're not getting that social network that you're supposed to get in the 4 years.
and it's a downward spiral. So then if they do get a job, they're not going to know how to interact, and they're going to be fragile. They're going to, when the boss tells them, you've not done that right, they're going to, F you, I don't need you,
Oh yeah, it's terrible, Eugene. It's terrible.
go. And when I'm just astounded when I look at the comments, and it bothers me, makes me feel bad. So I'm criticized the police a lot because as a prosecutor, and that's one of the things when I get the most hate from, not from myself, but of the system in general. Man, these young men, I, I know it's out there, but until I started doing this, and when I talk about police and some of the things they do and some of the things they ought not do, because I've seen a lot of bad stuff, even here in the mountains, with a lot of our people, mostly the poor, the hate, and they're just beat down. They're beat down. They honestly believe that everyone is out to get them. It had nothing to do with them driving without tags, making a target out of themselves, having a bag of weed in the car. It had nothing to do with any of that. It's just that they feel that they were unfairly targeted. Now, there is a lot of bad
So
police.
yeah. So how do you chase a passion and become someone that has dedication to a
Man,
purpose when you're in that mindset? And then you got to
you
take
ha-
into another account there is when you're poor and you can't really get out of it. Like I'm not saying you can't get out of it, but it seems oppressive in the moment. How do you get that moment and stop for a second and say, I'm not going to go with the instant gratification. I can get drunk for $3 and I can drink my sorrows away. I mean, most people will go on that tangent, which actually makes everything worse, anyways. Then say, okay, I'm going to wake up a little bit earlier. I'm going to go do a meaningless job and put $20 a week away into a stock with dividends or something, and see if I can accumulate some reoccurring interest or something in
it's
5 years.
it's a special and I hate to say it, God, because my father. I love my father. I didn't know my father until I was about 14 years old. He was on the road playing music. I had no male role model, none, zero.
Now you had
Lived
brothers though, right? You had brothers.
I had a brother, but he was younger,
Ooh.
younger brother. But just something. I don't know if it's just me. I'm sure it is just me. Just something told me that there was something else for me. And despite the overwhelming evidence to the contrary,
Yeah.
there was, I just believe ignorantly. I mean, ignorance absolutely in my case is a bliss because I had no freaking idea. I just knew there was something, and I just kept banging around. And then when I was presented with going to college as a senior, I just thought, okay, I can't do it. What else am I going to do? I'm not going to stay around this crap hole. I'm
Well,
not
yeah,
going to stay.
that's an important aspect of life. Is just because you see something in front of you doesn't mean that's the only thing in front of you. You got to
Yeah,
have your mind open enough to have some faith in yourself,
yeah,
and to look outside the box a little bit. You see a chair in front of you, and you say, "Oh, that's for sitting." But what if I need to put a box down for a second? That chair
yeah,
could be used for more than one purpose.
yeah,
But here's the deal: if you see the natural world and you're not willing to see anything outside of that, belief, faith, or any of those things, you're actually missing out on 2/3 of the reality in front of you. Because here's the deal: faith doesn't exist without acting it out. You can't make
absolutely.
it true until you try your luck.
And there's something to that, and I never liked it at first, but fake it till you make it.
Yeah, and you'd be
Um,
amazed. You'd be
Man,
amazed. You could see more than what's in front of you. That chair has more value than just sitting.
my first day of law school, I was 34 years old. I had four kids.
Oh man.
We had I By that time I had a kidney transplant. My medicine cost me $1,800 a month. I cobbled together some services, Department for Vocational Rehabilitation, Bureau for the Blind helped me. Uh, my mother and father very poor. I My premium on my insurance was 200 a month. I asked them to pay 200 a month. My mother and father-in-law had some working class money. They were retired. They helped us uh, help my wife with gas money. I took a cab because I can't drive. So I took a cab to law school my first 2 weeks, uh, but just out of sheer ignorance. I just thought, okay, there's something else I want to do. I and I just thought there's something else I want to do, and I just find a way to do it ignorantly. Did it. I was there. No one taught me. In fact, there were people telling me I shouldn't do it. Um, so it's special person, but I'm not sure I'm special. I just
No, no, no. You're just finding secret formulas that are just out there in the open for everybody to find. It's just most people won't look.
yeah, one of those grant programs that I work with, um, that's what it's designed to do because I was a student of that program. So it worked for me. Something in that program turned me on. I was at 13 years old. I didn't utilize what that program taught me uh, until I was, laying flat on my back, recovering from kidney transplant.
That's a scary.
But
That's a scary place, and you were there twice.
oh man, I
Eugene,
thought I
that's
was gonna
wild, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
thought I was going to die, man. The first time I went in because I thought I was getting ready to go to a Cincinnati Bengals game, and I had not felt good. I'm a runner too, so at that point I was running 75 miles a week. Now my kidney, my second,
75 miles. Wow, man. So
yeah,
that's like 10 or 15 miles a day.
yeah. So I was putting in the miles,
Shit, man.
and and I could tell it was on a decline. I wasn't getting the kind of production out of the time. Was feeling bad.
What were your symptoms? How did you feel specifically? Like muscle
Well,
fatigue, or was it
no, just
like
tiredness,
rib pain?
fatigue, tiredness. Um, and had never been sick before, so I maybe I wasn't in tune to my body the way that I am now. So I would felt tired, and most men aren't good at telling people in their world, I don't feel bad. I'm old school guy. Get up, suck it up.
Yeah, I'm not telling nobody. Yeah.
Yeah, make the best of it. So I was doing that at 30. And my mother-in-law was at our house getting ready to watch our children. Me and my wife, we didn't have any money. So we got some free tickets to go to a Cincinnati Bengals camp. So we were driving to Cincinnati. I had the luggage literally in my hands. I had this pain, just tightness. And I told my wife, I said, I said, something's wrong. I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. Of course, she starts yammering, man, you just don't want to go. Because I'd felt bad. You just don't want to go, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, baby. I said, you've got to take me to the hospital. So I think she saw my eye. You got to go. So they said, Miss Cisco, your heart's fine, but your kidneys aren't working. I thought, I'll be darned. And I was just devastated. So I went from our little local hospital to the University of Kentucky Medical Center. They evaluated me and said my kidneys at that time was functioning about 10%. I was still grinding it out about 10, 15 miles, man. And that's what
15
happened.
miles is no joke, man.
Blood pressure. See, I had all these symptoms that I had ignored: blood pressure, blurred vision, fatigue. I thought, well, it was just because I'm old. Back then when you're 30, you think that's old. And so it wasn't that. It was my kidneys. I apparently had this kidney disease since I was 12. Had no idea.
Yeah.
No, that's why ignorance is a bliss. So second time around, when I had this epiphany at that age, I said, okay, I'm going to die. I truly believed when I was in that hospital the first time I was going to die. In fact, so much so, I called my boss and I said, hey, I said, I need you to go to my desk. Because, you accumulate a lot of stupid, and I'm faithful to my wife, but you accumulate a lot of stupid shit and you do office things. So my desk was full of things that if someone looked at it in the abstract, would not look good, like cards and notes and bullshit that you accumulate in the course of your work life. I said, listen, get everything out of my desk, get all the cards, take them off, just so that way, if I don't make it out of here, No, that's my wife don't have to go through any of this stuff. Not that I was trying to hide it, but there's things that you can't explain. So I thought I was going to die. Uh, and so then the stupidity kicked in, and I told my wife, I said, I don't want to be here. We got up and left. I said, I gotta go. That, fright or flight,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
boy, full
She's
on.
furious. I know right now she's losing her mind right now.
Oh yeah. I said, we gotta go. I said, I gotta go. I can't be here. I'm gonna die. I'd rather die out there than die in here. Oh man. So no, she's no, you sit your way, had up, some words because we've known each other for years. And you know, I realized, okay, well, they put me in a hospital. As soon as they told me, and this is the weird part about me, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about having a target. As soon as they came in and told me what I had, they ruled out for a week, they were ruling stuff out. Oh, Miss Cisco, you don't have leukemia. Miss Cisco, you don't have this. Miss Cisco, you don't have that. I thought, oh my God. So when they finally told me I had kidney disease and there was a plan and they were putting together a plan, man, the light clicked. I had a plan. I educated myself. This is before the internet. I do some serious reading and talking to people. This is 91. So I educated myself. I became comfortable with the plan and I dove into that plan, man. I got in it. I started changing my diet, modifying, you know, even I was running a lot. I weighed about 180. After my transplant, I got up to like 247,
How tall are you?
5'9".
Oh, that's not good, man.
I was fat.
Two what? 240?
247. I was fat. So part of my self-improvement, man, I grinded it out and lost my weight. I'm just goal driven. When I have a goal, man, because when the happiest part of my life is when they told me at that time in 91 is when they told me you've got kidney disease. Because, okay, cool. They know. Now let's put together a daggone plan so that way I can participate and make this thing better. And that is the way I operate my life, man. I have a plan, a goal. But
The mind is powerful, man.
man, and I say this, my wife hates it when I say it. She's not that way. She and I are opposites when it comes to that. I don't say I can't quit. I never quit. I've always believed in it. There's another way around something. If you want to do it, you can find a way. And people will look at me now and say, well, yeah, it's good. You can say that now because look at who you are. But no, hell, I had that.
It takes 20 years of grind to become who you are.
I had that thought at 13. So, it's just crazy. But and you got to have the passion and you got to motivate yourself. It's motivation doesn't come. There are times where right now my kidneys operating at about 20%. I get up and every other day I run. Now I've had gout because my kidney function is not good, so I've been dealing with gout. Even though I lace up my daggone shoes, I put a compression sock on my foot that's affected, and I get out there and now I'm not doing 10 miles anymore, but I do 3. 3 is my minimum, and I'll go as high as 5. But when it's a running day, there are days I don't feel like doing it, but I'll look at my shoes. I'll say, damn. But man, I get them on and I go. I don't even think about it. But you just got to grind it, and eventually it works out.
Yeah. Or you die trying.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but I love what I do every day, and I try to share that with people. But most of my clients aren't receptive to it.
Well, you are sharing it now, and now you have intentionally an unlimited amount of people to vie for attention. There's 7 billion people with phones, and there is voice translators, word translators.
Yeah.
There's a means to an end to communicate with all 7 billion people.
Ain't
On
it
that
cool?
note, Eugene, I think it's the coolest thing in the world, and I like what you do. So let's get into the TikTok for a little while, man. So you've got your 2 surgeries, you got your law firm, your kids are all grown up, You've been working with all these people with drug and rehab and rehabilitation, and you're doing so many things. All of a sudden, one day, you pick up your phone and you say, instead of watching it, I want to make it. How does that day play out for you? How does that exact day play out
Well,
for you?
I, I watch, and I haven't taken them down. My early TikToks, it's suck. I love talking. I talk. My father was a salesman, so I've always and I sold. So I thought, okay, this is cool. But early on, my kids. So everything I've ever done that's modern has been a result of my kids dragging me through technology and whatever. So I watched them on TikTok. They said, "Dad, you got to get this," because they know how I am. Dad, you've got to get this. And I poo-pooed it because early on it was just stupid cat stuff, right?
Or
Lip
teenage girls dancing and really,
Yeah,
really lame,
yeah.
lowbrow. Yeah.
So I like, no, man, that's not for me. Then I got an account about 10 months ago. So it happened like I told my daughter, I said, I said, I'd like to try to look at this. I said, I would, and I had at that point, I had not ever done it, but I had heard by looking at Facebook, because I was active on Facebook. I had watched and heard that was the thing, the new thing, and you can make money. I love making money. Okay. So the motivator was maybe I'll try this as another avenue to make some money and have some fun. Well, have fun, make money. So my youngest daughter, I said, hey, won't you help me do a Instagram? Instagram is all girls. So I poo-pooed that one. I thought, okay, I can't do Instagram. I said, help me with this TikTok. She said, okay, Dad. So she set me up an account. And I started scrolling through and watching. I said, oh, by golly, I'm going to do this. And what your brain thinks is correct, a lot of times isn't always the way you should do things. So I had in my mind this preconceived idea of what my TikTok should look like. It's like looking through your old high school annuals. When I go back, I don't go back any farther than maybe 4 months on my TikTok, because then I can feel myself getting embarrassed.
Yeah, but guess what, though? I think the greatest part of this Wild Wild West moment is you have to be the fool before you're the master.
I'm all about being a fool.
Yes, and not only that, but as you grow, you can say, man, I can't believe how quickly I came up with this new idea or this new thing I saw someone else do, or I recognized that I didn't see what the other people were doing. There's all these little things that start coming together slowly. And again, they accumulate, just like the other stuff that accumulates.
So my daughter set it up. I started tinkering with it and, figuring stuff out. I had, my first goal was 1,000 followers, because I knew at that point you could monetize. So I wanted 1,000 followers. And I was even trying to.
And you can go live. You can go live after 1,000.
Yeah. So my call to action was, I'm looking for 1,000 followers, but come on, somebody hit that button. So, so I was doing this. I had about 350 followers. I thought, okay, this is kind of cool. And I didn't understand how to look at the videos and check the traffic. I had no idea. Just a newbie. Everything was new. Like I was like a kid in a candy store. And then, so the more I'm reading and more I'm watching some of these content creators, and some of them are trying to take your money, which I've been around enough to recognize who those are.
Yeah, you got to be careful, man. You got to be careful.
Yeah. And there was some that seemed to be sincere. I looked at that when I started writing books. There's a lot of people wanting to publish your book for money. I've never paid for anything of mine to be.
Well, now, it's so much easier now. From the way I understand it now, you can actually self-publish and put out on Amazon and other platforms that I'll sell a book, and then they make a book to the request. So there's no overhead at all anymore.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. Now, the digital books I'm doing that. I'm getting into that space now, but regular old hardcover, soft cover books, I had my very first one here actually as I'm packing some stuff. So this TikTok is all that. So I'm learning all that. And I hooked up with this girl in Canada.
Yeah, you said this before. Yeah, who is this person?
What
is this?
I'm going to tell you. I want to drop her. I told her I would probably mention her name. Her name's Katie Williams. She calls herself the content queen.
Okay.
The advice, she did an audit of my TikTok. Um, and what she told me was, you know, you got to have, I'm thick skinned. She was brutal.
Yep.
She gave me the nuts and bolts of where she believed, her opinion, where I was doing wrong and what I needed to improve, and helped me try to find my voice. And I started developing a relationship with her, told her about my ideas, because a lot of times, and I've tried this before earlier on, I connect with someone, I give them my ideas, and I can hear myself when I tell people what I want to do. Okay, this guy's crazy. He's got 10 different things and he just can't, he's got ADD. Okay. So I can just hear when people are talking to me that they don't believe. This girl believed. She took a gamble. I paid her for her time, which was like ridiculously low for the information I got. I would have charged, and I told her this. I think she's since raised her prices. I told her, I said, I would have paid you 5 times what you asked me.
Yeah, but you didn't know that until you knew that, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So that in hindsight is a whole nother animal.
yeah, so when I understand the value she gave, so I contacted with her. I think I had maybe 400, if not maybe a little less. This is the last 4 months. I'm now sitting, I think, somewhere at about 45. I don't look at it. I wanted to go to 1,000. That was my goal.
Yeah.
And so the stuff I've started
Yeah,
doing,
yeah. Where are you now? What's your following right now?
about 43, 44,000.
Okay,
And I'm,
so you're making a few bucks now. At least it's coming in. It's trickling in now.
yeah, I'm getting a couple thousand a day. It's mind blowing and overwhelming at the same time, because it's like these people uh, believe what I'm saying. Most overwhelmingly, the engagement is positive. Not that I don't care about that. I want to try to help people. I want to try to make money, and I'm figuring this is a good avenue to give good, solid information, develop relationships, really have fun, and maybe if I'm making money, because I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything else now. I run a substance abuse clinic and, prank around with the law. But and I'm close to retirement, although I'll never retire. But that's what my journey's been like over the last 6 or 7 months. And now I'm really full on engaged into trying to develop that other part of it, because it's not really about the money. I mean, I want to make money, but I'm thinking if I'm able to make money, what that tells to me is that people are buying my information and benefiting from it. Honestly, I ain't putting anything out that I don't think I won't put out crap. I don't recycle anybody else's material. Um, it's me. It's my perspective, right or wrong. It's the way that I've done things, and I'm going to do that. My first book is a grant book, How to Write Grants. I honestly believe I know how to write grant. I've done many of them.
That's awesome.
And
That's awesome.
I'm going to, my first live TikTok is going to be on grant writing. I'm going to try to do a live thing on that, so I'm developing my YouTube at the same.
Make sure you push out a couple small videos before you go live, because they normally will push out your content when you go live. They seem to amplify your content.
That's what someone said, and I figured, and this is different. So
Especially if you can get it on the same topic too, so that way you're drawing more attention all at the same time.
Exactly, and then I'm going to do one on DUI and the law, because that's going to be my second.
That's another good one. Yeah, yeah. And then you
do
a couple.
And then I'm going to do one on bankruptcy and divorce. So I'm going to have those 4 books out there.
Nice.
Things that I know a
Eugene,
lot
I like
about.
that. That's strategic, and I like it, man.
Yeah, and so I'm taking, but the easiest and hardest part, like 30-year-old Eugene would have been like, go, 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 get it out, get it out, get it out, get it out. Now it's like, okay, I want to do this right. I want to develop it, nurture it, and take my time, but not too much time, because I'm a grinder, man. I set up, that last book took me about 5 months, but I piddled around. I have a place in Florida, so I piddled around while I was down there. But now that I see what's about ready to happen, I put out this DUI book. I've worked on it about a month now, and I'm almost ready to have it. I figure my bankruptcy book or my divorce book will probably be about 5 weeks. But I'm taking my time, and that's what you don't. I could have never done this at 30. You know, I just couldn't have, because I was wanting to hurry. I was trying to hurry up in my 20s. I say after my kidney transplant at 30, I learned more. But before that, I was trying to hurry up. When you're raising
Yeah,
kids,
you rush to wait, and you got everybody behind you.
yeah, it's like raising. I got 5 kids. I've got kids. I've got four kids. I said five. I've got four. And I spent the early. One of the regrets, and I don't know if there's any way around this. One of the regrets is when you're young raising kids and you're in the middle of it and you're grinding it out. I was making $8,000 a year. Before I wrote my first grant, I was making $9,000 a year. The first grant I made doubled my salary. That's when the light turned on and said, "Okay, this is different." You know. Um, so the when I finally got into that space of figuring out what I wanted to do, it was a whole lot easier for me after I had that kidney transplant to realize I just had to take my time and nurture these things, you know.
Gotta aim at something, man. And sometimes you gotta take your time when you pull that bow back.
Well, it's hard, when you're young. Raising kids. I lost my train of thought. So when you raise kids, I was so busy hurrying them up, hurry up, get grown. My first three I did that way, and so that's one of my regrets is that I didn't fully enjoy them the way I did my baby daughter. My baby daughter, she came the 7 years after the third one. I had gotten into a career. I was making some money. I was a little more comfortable. And I enjoyed her because I wasn't busy grinding out I wasn't going anywhere before that. And so I took my time with her. I don't love her any more, any less, but she's my baseball buddy. She's my partner here at this clinic. We go to ball games together. And I think about it all the time. I enjoy her. And so if I look at that in the way my life has gone in my career now, I'm enjoying this. I'm not treating it like I did even when I first got out of law school. When I first got out of law school, it was like, gotta go, gotta make it. It's all wrong-headed. So I'm trying to enjoy this and learn and truly enjoy it. I'm having fun. Hell, I'm just having fun.
That's awesome.
But you don't learn that in your 20s.
No one does. I don't think they do. I don't even think you're really ready for the world until like 25, to be honest with you.
Well, what they say, your brain, you look at the data, your brain doesn't really fully develop, until you're 25, 26 years old. You're not fully, there's things that you're not able to do that talking about a young kid, you talk about boys. We're talking about boys. And I've done a lot of research and writing on this. Young boys, they get left behind in school at about age 7 or 8 in the first grade. The reason for that is their brain isn't able, they mature later, so they aren't able to read on the level that girls are.
And I don't think they need to. I think they're more, they need to experience the world more on a hands-on aspect of what happens when I fall out of the tree. I think it sounds stupid, but how deep of a hole can I dig has a far greater value to a young man at 10 years old than anybody possibly, because they're all antsy and they got ants in their pants and they're ready to rock and roll, and you can't get a 10-year-old to write a thesis on anything.
But you know what happens? So what happens for the 7 or 8-year-old boy who's slow to read, they get labeled.
Yeah. And now he's frustrated and cynical, and now he's observing the world from a negative perspective, and that can really go down a rabbit hole faster than anybody realizes.
It's crazy. So
the ones that do conform are the weaker ones, to be honest with you. And what we're doing is we're taking the true, natural, strong leaders, and we're penalizing them for not fitting into a system that wasn't designed to create men at all.
Absolutely. So when I was in the first grade, so my vision showed up. I'll tell this quickly. It was in the first grade. Um, my eye disease, I was born with this. So when I went to first grade, we had moved from Kentucky to Columbus, Ohio. And so they must have tested me. So I spent the first year of my education in the school for back then. It was the school for the mentally retarded because my visual issue they mistook for retardation. So I had to drive a cab. I had to ride a cab from my home to this school with other mentally challenged individuals, and I got the hell beat out of me um, every every other day by these kids. And so eventually, my mother realized there's nothing wrong with his brain. But we didn't have any money. I didn't go to an eye doctor. I didn't get diagnosed until I was 13 years old. So all this time I sat in the back of the class. I was labeled as a slow learner, and just by the grace of God, finally some guidance counselor said we need to probably check your eyes, and that's what happened. I was. They said, "How long you been this way?" I said, I,
Thank
"My
God someone was astute enough to pay attention a little more.
great crazy how stuff happens." The second cab ride I took in my life was when I went to law school. So
No shit.
when I do
Eugene,
my
that's an amazing story, Eugene.
when I do my motivational talks, I go back to my alma mater and I go to a couple of med schools and talk. I talk about those two cab rides because it's just the craziest thing. First time I'm going to the school for the mentally retarded. The second time, probably people still might say I went to the school for the mentally retarded in law school. So I had these two bookends, years apart from the time I was 13 until I entered law school at 34. Two cab rides. And it's just nuts. So I was labeled, and I see a lot of kids that are labeled because they don't see well, or they don't see well, or they're not mentally able to grasp that concept of reading because young boys develop slower,
Yeah,
and I think that's part of the problem too.
I agree.
So, all right, my man, just holler at me anytime. Tell people where I'm at, and any kind of traffic I could get, I'd be happy to entertain it.
All right, fantastic. Let everybody know how they can get to see you on TikTok. What's your handle on TikTok, and let
Right.
everybody know how to find you.
At Real Life and Law. It's Eugene at Real Life and Law. And that's also I'm trying to develop a YouTube channel, which is going slowly.
Yeah, yeah. YouTube is way harder, man.
Yeah.
YouTube looks like it's the cable television of all
I,
the platforms.
yeah, I can't do the thumbnails, those things.
Yeah, I have a hard time too. I'm not a
Above
huge
my
fan.
pay grade, but I'm loving this. And my Facebook is the same at Real Life and Law. So I try to brand all that and just, all my stuff is in my profile and all that kind of stuff. So, man,
Okay.
listen, thank you for this. This is so much fun. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I really enjoy this. This has been a passion of mine that I wish I would have pursued years ago when it first came up. And like you said, when you have a family and you don't want to risk it all
Yeah,
on an idea that you don't know is going to play out.
yeah.
And
When
unfortunately, I put it on the shelf and I shouldn't have.
I get these ideas, and my wife, I can just see her. She's been with me forever. And I can just see her roll her eyes sometimes when I talk about something I'm doing. Like, oh my God, here it is again. So, but man, thank you, and they can hunt me up on any of those things, and hopefully we'll meet again. And but you're doing this now, right? So you wished you had, but you're doing it now, and that's what counts, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So now my regret is I didn't do it early enough. Instead of a regret, I wish I did
Hell,
this at all. Because
we'll
nothing's
always.
worse than having regret.
Hey, you try not to live your life. Don't look back. I mean, I'm not telling you. You probably know that. I tell people you don't look back. You rip the Band-Aid off and go forward, man.
Yes. And if you were meant to do something, you can get back 10 times the time lost in half the time. You really can.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing how that works. It's almost like a magic time machine.
It is nuts. That absolutely true. Absolutely true.
All right, man. Well, I wish you luck, and I'll let you know when I publish this. And it'll probably be a day or two because, like I said, I got another guy after this.
All right.
And I'm going to be busy this weekend.
All right. Happy trails. I'll look in on you. I've loaded you up on my on the Spotify. Actually, I didn't have a Spotify account, so I created a Spotify account and.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I'm also on YouTube, so the
Okay.
video you can watch the video on Spotify, and you can watch the video on YouTube.
All right. Well, I'll look you up on YouTube. Okay.
Good deal. And
All
feel
right, my
free to
man.
like and subscribe, man. Subscribe.
I got you. I will.
Good deal, man. I appreciate it. All right.
All right. Bye.
Eugene, you have a great week, man.
I will, buddy. We'll see you.
See you later.